We've got more Gibson leaks and teasers to talk about tonight. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Man, you gotta love the end of the year because that's when all the new models start to come out. And our first one is actually a leak courtesy of Thomann Guitars. So they have listed a new model that we can't find any public information on named the Les Paul Modern Light. And it has this cool red finish, there's a white, there's like a grayish, and then a blue, and then a metallic pink. And all things considered, they seem to be relatively affordable. You also have to keep in mind this is not a USA dealer. They're over in Germany. So if we can believe this price, that means in the US, it might be somewhere from $12.99 to $14.99. So unfortunately, being an early leak, we do not have very good photos of these things at all. But we've got uncovered humbucker pickups, and then we do still retain a pickguard on it. We don't have any type of a poker chip. We still have 4 full control knobs. Now it's called a light, probably because it has a thinner body, which we can kind of see here. We've just got the regular dot inlays, doesn't look like any fretboard or body binding. But take a look at our headstock. It's a matching color. And that's true for all of them, just in case you missed it. You've got the gold one, this white one, as well as just a straight up red. There was actually a limited edition series, I think it was around 2018, of Les Paul specials out of the custom shop that had a matching headstock. So it's very reminiscent of those, but way more affordable. But as far as the pickups, looks like they're going to be pretty basic, 490R, 490T. It's kind of similar to what you would find in an SG. They're shipping them in gig bags, and it looks like regular rosewood fretboard, mahogany body, nothing too crazy. In fact, I'm still surprised to see a mahogany neck. I mean, maybe these specs will change, you never know with these early leaks. But so far, that's looking like a series that, yeah, I think I should buy one of each for a cool unboxing episode. Although, if I had to choose today, I don't know if I'd be able to because they're just all so good. Like, it's the blue one for me at first, but then I think, well, that one's a little bit more unique. But then I think, oh, that reminds me of the Les Paul Platinum. But then, hey, this is Randy Rhoads vibes, but extreme. And then this is just a way cheaper way to get a blackout Ferrari red custom. But also more so along the leak/quiet pre-order. A couple of days ago on Sweetwater's website, a listing came up for that weird Adam Jones Flying V that we've been seeing the past year and a half. But you know, if there's the word collector's edition in the title, the price is going to be quite scary. Here it is, 20,000 big ones. I had a feeling this one was going to be expensive, but 20,000? That seems quite high. However, it does have unique specs. It's a reverse silver burst. I mean, your toggle switch is over here, string through construction, except we don't have the pointy metal plate, presumably to give us our 4 control knobs. And okay, I will give it, the reverse burst on the back looks really good. And to be honest, I'm not even sure if I like it. But if nothing else, it is a new interesting model to talk about. So maybe someone will new guitar day one so we can check it out in depth. We'll have to see how those sell. The market has a tendency to go absolutely insane on the resale market of Adam Jones limited edition releases. So they're trying to cut that off by having the initial price be high. And I wouldn't imagine they're making that many of them, like maybe 50, but I could be wrong. I have no inside information on that one. So those are the 2 leaks that you might not have been aware of, but here's something that was just launched today. Gibson comes out with another new color for the 70s Explorer and Flying V. Previously, these things were only offered in classic white outside of the Gibson.com exclusive ebony finish, but now they are opening up, drumroll please, antique natural. Kind of feels like we went back to 2018, except for I think this time we have binding. If you wanted a natural Explorer, that works. However, I would argue the 70s Flying V in natural works a little bit better because these are a little bit unique with their pickup rings and having the pickguard. However, I think this is a great step in the right direction because we're one step closer to seeing antique natural return to like the 50s and 60s Les Paul standard. I've been seeing a lot of people pine for that guitar, so we'll have to see if that comes back next, even if it is just a .com exclusive. But this photo that the Gibson CEO has posted really makes that 70s V look really good. Like some of these are going to be lighter in color, other ones are going to be darker. It just depends on the mahogany that was used. But speaking of the Gibson CEO, he's been teasing some stuff on his Instagram page. We've got some SGs on a rack awaiting to be finished. They appear to have a maple top with a mahogany back. Usually most SGs are just straight up mahogany. They're not sandwiches like this, but that's not the first one to ever be like that. For example, the SG Modern. These actually appear to be pretty decently figured, but these can't be a Modern because if you look at your fretboard, you have Super 400 inlays. So what model did they just come out with that has these Super 400 inlays? Well, it's the Les Paul Supreme, which we'll be documenting here on the channel very shortly. But did you know there was actually a thing called the SG Supreme? It was first introduced around 1999. Now, they did not have the Super 400 inlays to start with, but they did have the figured maple top, and they came in a bunch of cool colors, such as this blue one. There's also kind of like a fireburst, there's a nice emerald green, and then for a few years it was also offered in a P90 variation, and all those had a custom style headstock, but then in 2016 they brought it back with the SG Diablo style body. So it actually had a carved body and a belly, kind of like a Zoot Suit SG. But again, notice the inlay style. So that's my hypothesis here. In a couple of weeks, we will see the return of the SG Supreme, but this time with the Super 400 inlays, and they're probably going to go ahead and throw their new headstock style from the Les Paul Supreme onto this one. And they'll put it within the Modern collection, just like the others. Just to refresh the SG Modern. Maybe they'll get rid of the base model, maybe they won't, maybe it'll just take a couple of years until they figure out what sells. I'm pretty excited to see that come back, even if it's not as popular as the Les Paul Supreme model. But now we need to talk about the biggest thing that Cesar is teasing here. Look at this photo of him here on stage rocking out. That is a body shape that you don't normally see out of Gibson, but it says Gibson on the headstock, it says Gibson on the body. And then you have your option of TI or Pi on our pickguard. But is Gibson really going to get into the Super Strat market again? Now, this isn't exactly a Super Strat, but this appears to be some sort of an archival reissue of the Gibson Victory model. Outside of the 70s Marauder and S1 and like the Melody Maker 3s, this was kind of Gibson's first take on a Super Strat of their own. It has this really weird body shape, which was also used on base models and eventually became the Q series. So if you're interested in learning more about these, I have videos on the Q series, I have videos on the MVX, as well as the MV2, which is the two different brandings within the Victory series. So it's the 2 humbucker single coil combination or just 2 humbuckers and some other fancy electronics. These are pretty weird, strange guitars. Personally, I'm just not that big of a fan of them. I much vastly prefer the Gibson US1 or like the Gibson M3 if I'm going to pick up a Gibson Stratocaster style guitar. For me, the reason I didn't really like the Victory series is they just seemed a little bit fiddly as far as everything you could choose. The control schemes were a little bit convoluted and hard to understand. They were pickups that only existed in that guitar. And for that reason, I vastly preferred the MV2 because it simplified things a little bit. I'm honestly surprised they chose to go with this over bringing back the Gibson US1. They could put those things back into production, sell them for $3,000 a pop, just like the Les Paul standards. They might not rock the world with them if they're standard production, but limited edition, they could probably get 500 of them out the door just like that. Because as far as I'm aware, they have not done the US one again. But looking at market prices of them, it's definitely in need of a reissue. However, going from there to here, you can see that they have made some changes, potentially improvements. Like we only have a half guard this time, whereas before it took up more of the instrument, which surprisingly makes it look better. Is this the new Archive Collection guitar to join the Theodore? Because we have not seen that get updated in quite some time. And maybe they're going to change it up enough that people will actually start to like these. Like, for example, if this has the Access heel carve on the back, that would be great. I'm personally a big fan of this weird V-shape inlay, even though it kind of looks like a Fender Custom Shop logo. But at the same time, that's hilarious. I love it. But you've got a regular 2-pneumatic stop bar tailpiece, you've got 2 humbuckers. Now if you're curious what that says, if we zoom in, it's the whole Gibson do epic blank. It's Cesar's mantra. He uses it everywhere. And now instead of a weird Firebird-like headstock, we've got an Explorer. But whoa, Cesar's holding up the stage here. But we do get a sneak peek on the back. Okay, it looks like it has some sort of a swoop down here. Maybe not necessarily cutting away the heel, but it might be such a thin guitar that you don't need it. But then we've got a volute, kind of Dave Mustaine style, as far as our Explorer headstock goes. And I'm not sure if this is a filter, but rainbow headstock? That's interesting. The big man does not just post photos like these, he wants us to talk about it, so we'll have to see what comes out. Because in this video of him playing the new Les Paul Supreme, he also has a different one over here. It's more of a cherry color this time with a different inlay pattern. That is from the Victory Multi-Voice series. So perhaps there will be a Gibson USA production and then a custom shop. Or maybe these are just 2 guitars Cesar had them put together so people will talk about it and then it never comes out just to get Gibson back in the news. And now one last thing I want to talk about. This isn't anything Gibson, it's actually George Gruen. After 53 years of instrument sales, he's finally designing and building his own guitars that he's calling the Versatar. Now, if I understand it correctly, he's not personally building them, but he's like the mastermind behind the project. They are being built in the USA down in Lebanon, Tennessee. But if you look at these things, You know what they look like? Remember how we reviewed the Papoose? It was the Tacoma branding. That brand ended up going under. And if I'm remembering the story correctly, Gruen kind of helped Tacoma design some of their more popular models. It seems he's just taken that over and birthed them back again. So this is a big win for recording musicians and people who love that style, but you just had a hard time finding the original Tacomas. I mean, maybe these are even better, but that's pretty much exactly where that sound hole comes from. And I'm really happy for him because when I had made that video, somebody had reached out to me saying, oh yeah, he's prototyping his own guitars, having people try them, and it looks like he's finally here with a couple of different models. Like this one's really fancy with abalone purfling. This one maybe a little bit more basic, and you get a colored finish on it. And hey, speaking of Tacoma, he's got one back there. But it looks like he's opting for a regular bridge style, so feel free to check one of those out if you're interested. But alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed learning about all the new news tonight. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.